So welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence Day. We're celebrating World Unity Week. And I am so pleased and honored to have back my friend Mark Porteous, who was with us earlier in the day with 3 dynamic guests. And so what does he do? He has to up his game and bring Debra Poneman, our old friend. So Mark, I'm going to turn this over to you and Debra. I'm going to be listening for every word, but I'm going to turn off my mic and video and enjoy. And we will be feeding this. This is being fed to live stream to Facebook. We will make a recording, and all the recordings will be available at our www.co-creatorsconvergence.com. I'll put it in the chat. It's kind of long, and just give us a little while to get it there. It's been a long day. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Noelle. And again, we're going to have all of Debra's information in the chat box. So we'd love to hear from you, see who's still on the line, and share where you're calling from, whatever's coming up for you. But I just love this event. When I boil my message down to one word, it is all about unity. So for me, being part of World Unity Week as a kind of a test run for World Unity Day coming up in September, I felt so honored, and to see that Marion Williamson, who's a dear friend of my guest today, Debra Poneman and Jean Houston, both 2 of my big mentors early in my spiritual path. So to be on the same stage with them is very exciting. And Kathy and Bob and Noelle have been a part of my journey for the last 8 years. I've only met Debra in person this February on 2/2/2020. She was one of the speakers at my Soulful Leadership Mastermind Retreat. And I met her, actually was introduced to her work through a dear friend of mine, one of my other clients in the Soulful Affiliate Alliance, Andrea Isaacs, who I see just actually joined. She's here on the Zoom with us as well. Hi, Andrea. Andrea told me this amazing woman who had partnered with Marcy Shimoff, and I knew the name Marcy and Happy No Matter What, and or Happy for No Reason, and the idea that this woman was about to get her own TV show and had her own book deal planned and put everything on hold to be a mom touched my heart. I've been thinking about fatherhood since I was 12 years old. And then when I reached out to her to come to my event, and Spirit guided her to be there rather than at Richard Branson's private island retreat, where she was also invited for that weekend, it just felt like everything was in alignment. And in fact, when she said yes to coming to my event, I told Spirit, I want to work with her. And I heard the answer, that's why you're doing all of this, is to do this work. And so to bring Debra's work out as part of World Unity Week, and what is required to create World Unity as a movement is a great honor for me. So I will hush my yap a little bit and let you learn a little bit more from Debra and bring her on. But I just wanted to say what a great privilege it is. And it just feels like this full circle of you already knowing Bob and Noelle 10 years ago. I met them 8 years ago. And again, just all of this coming back together at this divine time for this divine awakening that we're experiencing. I'm greatly honored. Debra, welcome.
Thank you. And I just want to add, this is so exciting for me because I see my friend Lori is on, who I know from, hi Lori, from Bill Bauman. We are the same teacher, and we were in a small group, mentoring group together for a year, or maybe 2 years. I think we were together. And of course, Andrea, who we've been friends since junior high, where we made trouble at our religious school together, and have been dear friends ever since. And other names that I recognize, and of course, Bob and Noelle, who I haven't seen in 10 years. It's just, I'm so fulfilled already. I hope I say something meaningful for everyone, but my heart is just overflowing. So thank you, Mark, for inviting me. My Absolutely. New friend, Mark, only since February. Thank you so much for thinking of me.
Well, we have been entrenched for the last 3 months into bringing the work that you've done for the last 40 years back into the marketplace. And it's yes to success. And what I was really attracted to was the idea of, what does success mean to you? Because and we've addressed this question. You've addressed this question 3 times in your webinars over the last couple of weeks about, is this the right time to be talking about success? And this is all about world unity, and what does world unity have to do with yes to success, I think that'd be a nice place for us to kind of start.
Well, one of the things that I want to say first is that it's so perfect what you are all doing right now with world unity, because we are living in truly unprecedented times. And I, for one, I am very excited and I am very optimistic about the direction of the world. And I know people who know me, like, surprise, surprise that I'm optimistic, but I'm also realistic because as Mark knows and Andrea knows, I marched in Washington in 1969 to end an unjust war. And I've been involved in, political movements and, at the Women's March and I was at Obama's inauguration and on and on and on. But I have never been so confident that real change is taking place on every level of society, on the level of the, I heard the gentleman before me talking about ETs. I feel like all of the energies and all of the beings in the universe are looking down on Earth right now. I believe that they are pulling for us. And I really think that change for the better is taking place. What's going on in the US at this time in history and really all over the world, it's not a fringe movement. It's a huge majority of people in our nation joining hands and saying all people are equal. We were all made in the image and likeness of God. We are all joining the clarion call for justice. And yes, a lot of people say to me, but don't you see that people are confused and they're struggling and they're hurting and they're scared about their future? And I say, yes, I see that. I don't live in a bubble. I happen to live in Chicago. And I see it, and my heart breaks for the people whose lives are affected day in and day out by the horrific injustices that are perpetrated on Black and brown people in our country. And right now, we don't have the luxury of wallowing in despair. I love the quote from St. Thomas Aquinas, who says, while injustice is the worst of sins, despair is the most dangerous. So instead of wasting our time putting our attention on the enormity of the problem and feeling that there is no way we'll see justice in our lifetime, I say notice the unity that's happening, noticing the people of all persuasions who are coming together, our youth. I saw an article where Orthodox Jews, the most conservative of the conservative on the planet, who we thought we'd never see, marching for Black Lives Matter. I mean, for me, the piece de resistance was when I saw Mitt Romney, a really good man, but he was the Republican candidate for president in 2012, marching in a protest for Black Lives Matter. Who would have thought in their wildest dreams? So I say, notice that the world is coming together in unity, and it was a roundabout way, but we are saying that we are no longer going to pretend that racial inequality doesn't exist. We are no longer going to accept a system where the path to success is paved with opportunity for some and obstacles for others. That we're not going to pretend, those of us who were born into white privilege, that we could just write a check to the Southern Poverty Law Center and then that's all we need to do and not do the real work. But the other thing is that we have to stop thinking that this is not the time to become successful. People say to me, oh, you teach yes to success. And is this really the time to be talking about success? And I say to them, it depends on what you think success is. If success were just having the big house and the fancy car and the exotic vacations, yeah, this would not be the time for, come on, you guys, let's get a house in the Hamptons. No, but right now, I think people are understanding that success is something completely different. We cannot be successful deep in our hearts until everybody is successful. Yeah, we might have the big house, but I'll tell you something. If we don't have inner success, and inner success comes from holding hands with others and lifting them up and locking elbows, and we're in this together. When you do, I know when I go to a protest or when I do something where I lift somebody else up, I feel so happy myself. It increases your oxytocin when you contribute. That's what success is. That oxytocin rush of knowing that you are doing something to change the world. That's success. You know what success is? Success is being able to look in the mirror and love the person you see. And you can't be successful if you're doing it just for yourself. You can only be successful if it's not about me, but it's about we. So yes, I teach success, but don't ever think you're going to come to my seminars and learn. And I know those of you who are my students, you know that I have had people who have taken my seminars who have become millionaires and billionaires and household names using my principles. But it's only because they first have that inner success. If you don't love the person and yourself on the inside, it's like building a building without a foundation. If a building doesn't have that solid foundation and if a person doesn't have that solid foundation of inner silence, you'll build a building without a foundation. It's going to crumble. So yes, we can have lots of money and then we can give it away to causes that need that money. Or you can have a nice house, that's fine with me. But first we create the inner success. And that's the kind of success that I believe we have to strive for in our 2020 world.
I love that answer. And it's exactly for that reason why I wanted to bring you on this evening to talk about what it takes to mobilize world unity as a movement right now. Because earlier today, I started off this morning talking about like the actual strategies and the structures for how to mobilize a movement. But I really believe that it starts with who you're being. And this work that you're doing is really about that inner work of being a leader of a movement. And so and when I was listening to your second encore webinar, but the third webinar, I heard about this aligning with your truth and the idea. And so I really wanted to kind of bring some of that in. I'll hand it over to you and let you share. But I love the idea of, who are we being in order to lead a movement towards world unity right now?
Well, I think that the same qualities you need to lead a movement are the same qualities you need to lead your business or your PTA or your church or your family. The leaders of 2020 are people who are honest, people who are open, people who are vulnerable, people who are transparent, people who are humble, people who take responsibilities for their own mistakes, people who lead by example, people who have a vision, and also people who really care about the people that they're leading. And everybody on this line is already a leader, because if you brought one child into this world, you are a leader. If you have one customer, you are a leader. But if you want to be more intentional and take on a mantle of leadership, because the world needs good people like the people on this line, if you are drawn to this event, you are the kinds of people. Don't be scared to take on leadership, because there is a quiet revolution taking place, and we are the leaders of that revolution. And it is a heart-centered revolution. And we are the ones who are going to bring the aspects of the heart into business, into politics, into our schools, into all of our institutions, into every realm of endeavor. And it's a revolution that's taking place that's going to lead us into a future where problems are solved by our hearts overruling our minds. Okay, if we try to come up with a solution just by thinking, what happens is our minds are so filled with untruths that we are fed by our parents and our teachers and our schools and our friends and advertising that wants to influence us. And if we make decisions based on solely our minds, we will be making the wrong decisions. But if we make decisions from the level of the heart, and when I say to people, when you're trying to make a decision, actually move your attention from your head to your heart and just ask for that knowledge to come through you, through your heart center, through your heart chakra, because this is where the truth is going to come from. And we are living in a time where the heart is going to overrule the mind. Kindness is going to triumph over cunning. Cooperation is going to change the face of competition. People are going to now if they want to succeed, they will be entering business interactions with the thought, and this is very important, not what's in it for me, but what's in it for us. And if you want to be successful, if you want to be a great leader, you need to enter into every interaction asking, how can I give? How can I serve? How can I win without anybody else losing? Because the leaders of our current revolution, we're going to rely more on our intuition. And the more we listen to our intuition, the better our intuition is going to serve us. When we exercise, when we trust our intuition, even though if our mind says to go to the right, if our intuition says to go to the left, and you trust it, it will be easier to listen next time. And I've been teaching this for 40 years, and I have had thousands of students who have said, thank you, because I listened to my intuition, even though it seemed counterintuitive. It seemed like it was taking me in the wrong direction, but I listened, and I thank you because everything turned out perfectly. I have never had one student said, I listened to my intuition and boy, I wish I hadn't. And also for the leaders of this revolution, success is going to depend less on what we're doing. And as you say, Mark, more on who you're being. Are you being truthful? Are you the teacher who lives the teaching? Are you saying one thing and doing another? Leaders need to lead by example. If you're telling people to be one way and you're being another, you may have been able to get away with that a few years ago. But the people in 2020, we have vision. We have 2020 vision. And if somebody is up there and they're not the teacher who lives the teaching, we are not going to follow them. I mean, we're like kids now. You don't think that your kids know exactly who you are, that you cannot get away with anything. Mark knows this. The other night I was teaching a course on success. And I said, first we have to create that solid foundation of success. And then I said, but there's nothing wrong with also having success on the outside. But I know I was talking about the building and the foundation, and I said, hey, I love success on the outside. I love having a nice car. I love having a nice house. I love going on exotic vacations. And no sooner had those words come out of my mouth that a little chat comes up on the corner from my daughter, and she says, you hate exotic vacations. You think they're a waste of time. Don't tell people that. Like, busted. So anyway, the first principle for being a leader is telling the truth, the impeccable truth. The second is making a heart connection. The expression, people don't care what you know until you know that they care. I mean, that is so true today. This is the age of connection. Mark, I know you teach on soul connection, that's the main quality of a leader. This is the age of connection. And again, not asking people to follow you until you have genuinely touched their hearts. I mean, that doesn't mean that everyone needs to be your best friend and you invite them over to your house for a sleepover, but effective leadership is no longer cold or authoritative or distant. People don't want to feel like they're being used for you to reach your goals. And if you want to lead a movement, discover what your people want. Ask them why they're in this movement, and tell them that you are committed to them getting their why, that you will be their partner, and you won't do it for them, but you'll meet them in the middle. But you need to know what drives your people. People have to feel like you really care. And I want to tell you a story. I know I'm going on and on. Let me tell one more story. Is that okay, Mark?
Yes, of course.
Okay. I want to tell a story about Bill Clinton, who was the epitome of a great leader. And one of my cousins, Dan Poneman, he was a White House attorney. Okay, so he was on Bill Clinton's staff. And he told me this story about when my father-in-law was turning 80, and Dan Poneman was at a meeting with Bill Clinton. He didn't have frequent meetings with the president, but he maybe about once a year or so, but he had a meeting with Bill Clinton. And he asked Bill if he would sign a birthday card to my father-in-law who was turning 80. he also was suffering from Alzheimer's. And he told Bill how much my father-in-law admired him and would he please sign this very special birthday card. Fast forward 2 years, they're at a meeting together again, and Bill Clinton says, Dan, how you doing? And how's your Uncle Harold doing? 2 years later, hint, if you want to be a good leader, if you want to lead a movement, listen when people talk to you. People want to be heard. Don't pretend to listen to them. Really listen. If President Bill Clinton hadn't listened, he wouldn't have remembered 2 years later about what my father-in-law's name was and what his illness was. And by the way, speaking of Bill's, whatever you think of Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, he did say a really great quote. He said, as we look ahead into the next generation, leaders will be those who empower others. So another great quality of leadership is don't be someone who does everything for your people. Be someone who instills in your people the confidence that they could do it themselves. So anyway, there are many ways that you could do that and increase people's self-confidence, but one of the ways is look for reasons to give abundant praise and celebrate even the smallest successes. And always look for what people do well instead of what they do wrong. There is that bowling study where the people bowled and they had two groups, and they had one group look at the films of themselves bowling and notice what they were doing wrong so that they wouldn't do it again. And another group were told, notice what you were doing right. And the people who noticed what they were doing right in the next round were just miles ahead in scores, as opposed to the people who were told to notice what they were doing wrong. So I say, help your people to focus on what they're doing right. And also, one more thing, be sure to give people your credit. Mark Twain said, great things can happen when you don't care who gets the credit. And leaders who don't care if they get the credit, not, oh, when I had the idea to contact people who, instead, when Linda shared with me the idea that we should contact people who. So what you're going to find is that the more credit you give to others, ultimately, the more respect and the more cooperation and the more authority you will end up gaining. So I know that was a long answer to a short question, and hopefully I answered it.
You did. We'll just get rid of the last 3 questions.
Okay.
I'm just teasing. That fits actually perfectly into while you were talking about that. I was thinking about action, and like this is all about who you're being to be leading a movement rather than the doing. And you also talk about people ask you, is meditating enough? And so maybe you can share a little bit about that, because you're going to move into an exercise we had talked about where people can kind of get some clarity on what is theirs to do right now. Share a little bit about the idea that, because I know the importance of being, and I also know that leads to inspired action. And without that inspired action, the being is just praying on a mountaintop.
Yes. One of the things I've been quoting lately is that people say, oh, but I'm praying for the people who are on the front lines. I'm praying. Prayer is so beautiful. And I pray and I visualize constantly the world going in a positive direction. But faith without action is worthless. I didn't say that. That's not an original quote. Faith without action is worthless. We also need to take action. We have to take action against injustice. The analogy that I use is when somebody's house is burning down, yes, you could pray that their heart will be at peace with their loss. But if the house is burning down, you got to call the fire department. You got to go in and get the people out. You got to get the dog out. You got to get the cat out. You have to put a blanket around the people who are shivering in the cold. You can't just pray, oh, I pray that they don't shiver. Excuse me, thank you for your prayers, but now isn't just the time for prayer. Now is the time for action. And, sometimes people, we want to lead movements. We want to lead a movement that is going to lead this world into a better place. And yes, we can pray for guidance. But the thing that a lot of people do is they pray, they get the guidance, but then they're afraid to act on the guidance. What if I make a mistake? You know what? What if you do make a mistake? So what? So many of us put our lives on hold because we're so afraid that we're going to make a mistake and we're going to look bad in front of other people. And we don't start the business, or we don't take a risk with the relationship, or we don't start a movement because we've already decided that we might not be successful. Not successful in whose eyes? We really have to stop leading our lives based on what we think other people are thinking about us, because the truth is, you're not that important to them. I hate to break the news to you. We stop our lives because we think people are thinking about us, but they're not. They're too busy thinking about what other people are thinking about them. So I say, what would you do with your life if you didn't care what other people think? Because the truth is, they're not thinking that much about you. Just go out and make as many mistakes as you possibly can, because everyone is a learning experience. And every mistake that you make, it's either to show you to course correct or what not to do next time. So yes, absolutely pray for guidance. But then when you get that guidance, act on it.
I so love that you shared that, because I believe that's the most powerful guidance that anybody can receive in their life. The most powerful thing that we can practice is to listen to our own inner guidance. It was that practice a year ago, putting that into practice, that led actually to our connection and to you coming to my event and just speaking in my event. And all of that's come from that is from trusting that inner guidance. And it's so I actually invested thousands of dollars to learn how to trust that guidance, because I didn't think I had intuition. I saw, what my wife and her intuition, and I thought women just had it and men didn't. And then I realized, oh no, I was getting it all the time. I just didn't trust it. And then when I started trusting it and following it, that's what, again, led to ease and flow in my life. And you actually have an exercise that you help people with to help get that inner guidance, and even joke about some famous people who've made millions of dollars with their inner guidance. Do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Yes, actually, I've been teaching this technique for about 40 years, and it's not that I thought of it. I actually read about it in Think and Grow Rich, because Napoleon Hill talks about what he calls sitting for ideas. And he says that he is in partnership with a higher power. He calls that higher power God. I invite anybody to call that higher power whatever you want to call that higher power. You can call it Joe. You can call it, Christ. You can call it whatever that higher power is. But what Napoleon Hill says, and he talks about it later in his other books, Grow Rich with Peace of Mind and several others, that he doesn't even start the day without sitting down and writing on the top of a piece of paper to God, what are you and I going to create today? And then he just writes. He just opens up that channel for guidance to come through, and he lets it come through. He doesn't stop it with his mind. He puts it on the paper, and then he underlines the action steps that he's guided to take. And what I always say, I always think it's so funny when people say to me, Neil Donald Walsh got messages from God. Guys, come on, give it up. What do you think, that God only talks to Neil Donald Walsh? I mean, really, Neil Donald Walsh did get messages from God, but you get messages from God every minute of every day. The difference between you and Neil Donald Walsh is he sat down to the typewriter and let that guidance flow through him. And then he put them into books, and then he sold the books. God bless him. He got some great messages. So what I say is that when we have something that we want an answer about, we usually go outside ourselves. We ask our mother, we ask our father, we ask our friends, we ask our teachers, we ask our gurus. But the one person that we ask, that we forget to ask, is ourselves. And we are never given a question without being given the answer to that question. We are never given a desire without being given the way to fulfill that desire. The God of your understanding is not a trickster that says, well, I'm going to give you this desire, but I'm not going to give you the ability to fulfill it. No, that isn't how the universe works. We all have different desires. We all have the ability to fulfill that desire, but we have to ask ourselves how. Somebody outside yourself doesn't know the how. You know the how. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do sitting for ideas, or as I call it, sitting for guidance or sitting for grace. So what I'd like to do is I'd like for everybody to participate in this. I think that you're going to enjoy it a lot. And what we're going to do is I'm going to lead you into it with a meditation, a universal meditation. So if you will join me in just closing your eyes and sitting comfortably with your spine comfortably straight. And hopefully you have a piece of paper or your computer in front of you so that you will be able to write when we come out of this. So let's just center ourselves by taking a slow, deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouths. And again, in through our nose and out through our mouths. And one more slow, deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouths. And now, as we continue to breathe, let's put our attention on the region of our hearts and take another slow, deep breath into your heart. And there you will see the light of the Creator, the infinite light of creation. It might be a white light or a golden light or a pink light. And if you don't see it, just imagine it. Shimmering inside your heart. This is the light of love. And love is your very essence. Now breathe into that light that is vibrating in your heart and allow that light to expand and fill every cell of your body. And as you breathe out, radiate this love and allow it to fill every cell from the tip of your head to the tips of your toes, tips of your fingers, vibrating it with the light of love. And as you continue to breathe that light of love, allow that vibrating light to spread out and fill the room that you're sitting in. And as the light of love fills that room, I now want you to expand it further. So that light of love touches the hearts of all of your friends and all of your family and all of your loved ones, wherever they are on this earth or beyond. That light of love touches their soul because you are a generator of love. And their souls are now recognizing that they are also powerful generators of love. And now see that love pouring out from you and from them like a circuit board, connecting us all in unity with the heart of every human on this planet. And as we all connect, the light becomes even brighter. And now our hearts connect with every living creature, with the birds in the sky and the fish in the sea and the great ones roaming the plains and the mountains and the jungles. We are all one. And now allow that light of love to expand to every tree, to every flower, to every grain of sand and every rock. So our entire earth is now vibrating with the light of love. And now we expand that light of love beyond our earth into every corner of the cosmos and every being that is living beyond our earth. And now all of our hearts connect. We connect with all of the great ones, everyone, every being in our creation as one radiant body of love. And as you continue to breathe this light of love, we ask for divine grace that this love purify everything in the soul of creation that is no longer needed for its highest evolution. And each of us asks, dear Creator, Source, Universal Spirit, please purify everything in creation, including everything in my soul that is not needed for me to live my highest good. At every time in creation, the Great One has appeared to lead us into freedom. When Jesus was needed, he appeared. When Moses was needed, he appeared. When Krishna was needed, he appeared. When Muhammad was needed, he appeared. When Mother Mary was needed, she appeared. When the Divine Kuan Yin was needed, she appeared. And now each of you is needed, and you have appeared to take on the mantle of creating unity on this planet at this time. And before we do our writing, I will share the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I do not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love, for it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. And now, as we come back into our bodies and we take some deep, purifying breaths, and we could wiggle our fingers and our toes. Deep breath into the nose and out through the mouth, and we could gently move our heads from side to side. I will say one more prayer, and then we'll do writing together. And our prayer is, I now set aside my ego, my judgments, my doubts, and my fears. And I put a circle of light around me so that only the grace of the Creator, the grace of the God, of the universe, of the soul, of my understanding can come through. And I give thanks in advance for the divine wisdom that is about to be downloaded through me. And now I invite you to slowly open your eyes and pick up your pen and paper, or you can type on your computer. And I invite you to ask your higher self this question. Remember, this is not a thinking exercise. This is a downloading exercise. And I could feel the energies in creation. I hope you could feel it too. A portal is very, very wide open now for every one of us. And the angels and the archangels and the master angels and our guides and our spirits and our ancestors and our teachers, our spiritual teachers in the earth and beyond are all at the ready to help this knowledge pour through us. And I invite you to put this question at the top of the page. What is my place in this new world? What is my place in this new world? Or what am I meant to contribute, to create? unity, co-create, congruence in this new world. And once you write that at the top of the page, just start writing the answer. All of the guides are here to speak through you right now. Put the words down on the paper. This is a precious opportunity. Now I'll stop talking and just continue writing. And keep writing. Don't go back and read what you wrote. Just keep moving forward. And if your pen stops, you can write anything else, question mark. And somebody asked me what my prompt was. What is my place in the new world is one of them. What is my place in the new world? How am I supposed to lead? How am I supposed to lead the world to unity? And don't censor, just keep writing. So I'd like you to finish up the thought you're on, because if it's, I don't, Mark, is it okay if I let people share? I think the answer is yes.
Yes, it is. I had myself muted, but absolutely. And I love that you're so good at holding that space for people to complete their thoughts and to get everything out. I'm like, all right, I got everything done and ready to move on. And it's so important to really sit there for a moment.
And so what I like everybody to do, so you could always go back. I do this every morning. I do what Napoleon Hill does. Whenever there's a question that I have and I want the answer to, I said, I did it today and I got an absolutely brilliant answer. How many of you are thinking, wow, that's pretty brilliant? So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go back and read what you just wrote and underline or highlight the action steps that your higher power, whoever you feel is coming through, what are the action steps that you are guided to take? So let's take another minute, and then I'm going to ask for some shares, because I bet that there are some things that came through you that could probably very much benefit other people to hear as well. So go back and read what you wrote. All right. So if you could, you know how to raise your hand. You raise your hand by going like this. Right, that's the easiest way. I know there's a little thing down there, like you click on participants and there's a drop down menu and you could raise your hand. But if you got something, and you don't have to read your entire message, but if you have something that you would like to share, I know a lot of people are listening on their phone, so it's a little bit harder because I don't know how to tell you how to raise your hand and I can't see you. But if there is, I think
Victoria Bard raised her hand. I don't know if
you did.
Victoria Bard, if you want to unmute yourself, I believe. Or
I will always raise my hand.
Hi, Victoria. Oh, I love your hair, girl. That is awesome. So sure, please share with us.
I wrote in the chat from what I had written down, help others grow past what I've grown past, share my story. It is in the power of the words that I write, live into my own truth. And that on one hand seems kind of silly and basic. It's actually not silly or basic.
No, you know, sharing your story, there's a kind of a big movement these days about people sharing their story, but you know, sharing your story, that's the only way people really learn. Like right now, I'm going to sign off at the top of the hour. You know what people are going to remember? They're going to remember the story about Bill Clinton. They're going to remember the story about my father-in-law. They're going to remember the story about my daughter saying, you don't like exotic vacations. And all of the other things that I said, you know, this point about leadership, they won't remember that unless they wrote it down. So share your story. And that's how you teach people through your story. So thank you. Thank you, dear. Wow, love your hair and it matches your dress. Okay, don't think that I missed that. All right, anybody else have anything? Anybody else want to raise their hand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Debra.
Hi, sweet.
Hello. Wonderful to see you and to be with you here. Yeah, really sweet. I really appreciate it. Oh, I know. Well, I just love you so much. And I love this exercise, sitting for ideas. It was great. I'm reminded that what I am here to do is to bring emotional mastery so that so conversations everywhere are done with respect and people are understood and there's peace on earth.
Mm. Oof.
That's all.
God bombs.
And one of the things, my action, well, it's sort of an action step, is trusting that I have myself as a great resource. I forget that. And I know I have other people like you and Mark, awesome, and Kathy, I just love each of you, and Noelle and Bob. But I forget to trust my inner guidance, and it's time to up the ante on that.
And that's the thing right now. And thank you for saying that, because on one hand, this is a time where we are all coming together. I mean, what we're doing, co-creators convergence. I mean, this is about coming together. You guys are the leaders of people coming together. And at the same time, we also have to strengthen our independence and our inner and our dependence on ourselves. And you know, I love this quote from Amaji, you know, the hugging saint. She talks about how we each have to actually cling to our spiritual practices. There's a quote where she says, now is the time to be vigilant about your spiritual practices so that when the world shakes, you remain unshakable. And I love that. It's like it's really important to do practices so that we do become self-reliant, and at the same time, accept and be open, and don't be scared to accept the support of each other and join hands with one another, because I don't need to tell you guys, together we're infinitely more powerful.
We can't do it alone.
Cannot do it alone.
No.
But this movement is just so spot on. It's so exciting. And anyway, is there anybody else?
I wanted to say real quick, I love all these little points of light coming together, because Andrea was living at Sunrise Ranch when I came to the Co-Creators Convergence live event there with Bob and Noelle, and it's just fun to see that you guys all know each other in different ways.
And I've known Kathy forever too. I think Kathy first interviewed me, I don't know how many years ago, but it was a while ago. So this is so fun.
I also wanted to say real quickly, because we had talked about sharing your videos. We've just gotten along with like a 3-week launch of these really, really powerful videos. So I'm going to post the link right below, and feel free to take any other callers. I know there were some other people who had their hand up, including Noelle, I think. Did you not? Oh, maybe not.
So what Mark is posting here is that over the last few weeks, I made 3. The other thing that I did over the last few weeks, and I think this is also very significant. A week ago, I interviewed 8 world changers about what is the new paradigm of success. And every one of them, it was Catherine Woodward Thomas. She said it's not, it's because she's a relationship coach. She said the role is completely changing of relationships, and you cannot have a relationship unless you are there to mutually support each other's greatness. And that is the role of relationships. And then Janet Atwood, who is the founder of the Passion Test, said, yes, you have to live your passion. But now what she has decided to do is she started teaching self-love, because unless you love yourself, you can live your passion, but it'll mean nothing to you unless there's self-love. I mean, everybody's coming up, and these are the things that the new paradigm of success is all about. And Marianne Williamson was one of my guests, and she said, just like she was on your event, and she said that the new paradigm of success is no longer about me, but it's about we. So Mark just put up a link, and one of the things that you could find on that link are the separate interviews from there are 8 people, many others. Marcy Scheimoff I interviewed. So that's the link that Mark put up there. And then I made a few of those. 4 of the videos are just me. Now Noelle raised her hand.
We have thousands of testimonials from those little videos of you talking about transformation within 90 minutes. So yes, please do take a look at those. Go ahead, Noelle.
Well, I just want to read a few from the chat. Is that okay? And then I'll share. We have from Kathy Mason: help as many people awaken to their divinity, help people activate, illuminate, enlighten, celebrate embodiment.
Whoa, yay, Kath.
Yeah. And then I thought I saw another one here.
Bob.
Oh, yes, Bob. Where's Bob?
He says, shine the light on fear, trust life's journey, act wisely. Ooh, got chills from that one.
And then, okay, and then I wrote a lot of stuff, but I'll just pick out a few things. It said, continue to gather the flock. So, okay, I'm a shepherd, all right.
You are.
And stretch your ability to inspire and motivate others to activate their promise to co-create a world that works for everyone. So obviously I was channeling Barbara Marx Hubbard there, but then in big letters down at the bottom, it says, help others remember who they truly are. So that was my last one.
Beautiful. Mm.
So
Mark, there's only 3 minutes left till the top of the hour. Do you have anything else you want to ask me, or should I just end with some brilliant quote?
You're welcome to. So I'm not kicking you out, Deborah. It's been 10 years, for goodness sake.
I want to just
Mark has a family he has to take care of. So, as do others. So
no, we have put my family on hold for the last couple of weeks so they can wait a couple more minutes. I am so thrilled to be doing this work. And going back to the Sunrise Ranch and the Co-Creators Convergence Live event, one of the things that came from that was, what is it that's needed back then? That was kind of the question. And it was being more of who I am. So hearing all of this, discovering and understanding that we are divine beings, I feel like that is the answer. So all of the work that Debra has been doing has been helping me to become more of who I am. And so many of the people that you've had on this call, it really, that's what it's been about. So I will let Debra share whatever wisdom she wants for as long as you want until we're ready to get kicked off this place.
Well, I do have one other little plug I want to give, but you mentioned Co-Creators Convergence, which of course was started by some students, Barbara Marx Hubbard and myself. So maybe there was a real core of about 12 or 13 of us that started. And, people always ask, like, well, what does the Co-Creators Convergence do? And, like we're supposed to have, we don't have a specific mission statement, or it's not this or that. And I said, I just feel like we're in circle and we're here to support each other, and so that's mainly what I feel like I do, is just like, oh, Mark's having something, look, let me slam that up there. Oh, somebody's doing this, let me tell them about. Oh, they need, oh, okay, so who was it? Victoria's here, she's having a summit, she wanted some speakers. Okay, here's 3 suggestions, and I really feel like that's what the Co-Creators Convergence is like. We just create this portal of love, and magic happens, and we just lift each other up.
Portal of love and magic happens is good enough, but now you can tell people when they ask you that you sat for guidance and you realize that you are a shepherd and you are gathering the sheep.
And by the way, you have the best logo. The Co-Creator Convergence logo is my favorite logo ever.
Well, you can thank Kathy Mason for that, but she must have gone to sleep. She's not doing her.
Thank you, Kathy Mason. Well, she actually wrote something, so she must. There she is. Hi, Kat.
I'm not asleep, but I am tired.
Oh, honey, you must be tired. You know what? I'm going to tell one little story and then another story. And then because I know we have to put up the movie, the Barbara Marx Hubbard movie, which is so sensational, but it's good to see you, Kat.
Hi.
Hi, honey. By the way, the thing that I got, because I was writing when everybody was writing, all of a sudden this quote that I think that I knew this quote 40 years ago. It says, care not for the opinions of others or those voices, do the hardest thing, think for yourself. And that's a quote from La Rochefoucauld. And I think I used to quote that 40 years ago and haven't quoted it since. And it just came to me during the writing. And I thought, do not care for the opinions of others and those voices, because there's always the naysayers. And in this comes my last story, and it's a story from Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical text. And the story goes that this man dies and he goes to heaven. And the guard at the gates of heaven says to him, what did you do with your life that you think that you deserve to be allowed into heaven? And he said, I was such a good person my whole life. I was always kind. I was always generous. I was always gentle. I never hurt a soul. I don't think I have an enemy in this world. And the guard at the gate of heaven said, that just got you a first class ticket to hell. And he said, we can't be nice all the time in these days when we have to raise our voices and we have to ruffle feathers and we can't be agreeable all the time, that we have to stand up for what we believe, even if there are people who are not going to like us. And I believe that the message in that story from Kabbalah is, even if what you are afraid of is to use your voice, there are people who are depending on you to use your voice. Because if we stop ourselves because we're conflict averse, so we don't want somebody to think bad of us, we're just going to have to come back in their next lifetime and use our voice. So we might as well do it this time.
Beautiful, beautiful way to end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Mark, and everyone who's stayed up late with us. And this has just been a wonderful, wonderful evening. And we have to do it again. So with that in mind, you know, I don't know if I mentioned this before because it's late, but we're considering this the World Unity Week, this whole week that was put together. Kathy and I kind of co-created this in 14 days. And I think the whole thing was put together in 6 weeks. So there's a lot of divine inspiration there. But we're considering that we have about 200 partner organizations. And but we're considering this just an experiment, because we're going to have Peace Weekend. September 21st, as you probably know, is UN's International Peace. That's going to be Peace Weekend. And we hope to go from 200 partner organizations. How about we'll go for 2,000? And
yes.
So you're all invited back. That's the good news. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for all you're doing to lift up humanity. And we just love you and thank you for your time. So precious. You're so generous. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah.
Bye, Bob.
Bye, Bob.
I love you guys so much. I'm in Lori, and we're so in everybody. I'm so happy to be reunited. And thank you for inviting me.